They'll have two people. Okay.
Mazel tov, Rabbi. Mazel tov.
Thank you. We're up to Ayin Tes Amid Beis. Gufa, 3 lines in the bottom. Gufa, Hari Shahoy Yisrael Mechza Tahirin Mechza Tamein. Going back to a previous Gemara, that if you go after Roiv, if Roiv Atame, you're going to go ahead and bring the current Pesach Betuma. Even the Tahirin will bring a Betuma. If the minority are Tar and Atame, then they'll go to Pesach Sheni. So what about Mechza on Mechza? So we had Machlokes Rav and have two Shitas in Rav Kahana. Rav said that if Mechza on Mechza is Keroiv, so we'll view each party as Roiv. We'll view Tameim and they'll bring Pesach Rishon, and we'll view the other party as Roiv Tahirim and they'll bring Pesach Rishon. However, they can't bring together. They can't bring together because then you'll be making the ones that Roiv Tahirim Tameh, so they can't bring together. So that's what we're going to discuss right now. Gufa. One party does their own thing. Let's say they Tameim together. And the Tahirim do together. Let's say you have one more Tameh than the Tameim. If you have one more Tameh than the Tameim, it's going to go ahead and push it over to the other side. This is Steve. Okay, so we have half and half. You have one more Tameim. It's going to push the whole tzibur now. Guys, listen to this. Let's say there were 200 people in Klal Yisrael. And it's 100 and 100. Now, if you're going to go ahead and take one from the Tahar, so now you have 101 and 99, that one person now is going to go ahead and make that even the 99 at Tahar to be able to bring the Korban Pesach B'tumah. I feel Lecha Yasa B'tumah. Now, why do they all bring B'tumah? Why don't you just say in my scenario, the other 99 bring it B'tahira, the other 99 bring it Tahira. If you're saying Korban Tzibur Chaluk, the Korban Tzibur, when it's brought, and the Korban Pesach is a Korban Tzibur because it's brought B'chanufya, it's brought with the population. We don't want to be Chaluk. As much as possible, we wanted to keep them together, to be universal, either universal Tar or universal Tameh, right? So therefore, if the Mir are Tameim, you go to Pesach Sheni, and now everyone is Tahar. If the Roiv are Tameh, even the Tahirim could do it B'tumah, so now we're all together, She'ein Chaluk, we're all together, what as one. However, so therefore, if you majority now, even if majority is one, that'll shift all the Tahirin to be able to do into Mayim that we are universally all bringing the Korban Pesach B'tumah, She'ein Korban Tzibur Chaluk. The bottom line on Ayin Tes on the base, one person cannot go ahead in this scenario of 100 to 100, and now you're going to go ahead and be one more, right? It can't be machriya. Shneimar, because it says leisuchal is boyachas pesach ba'achat shorecha. Now the Gemara is going to darshan the pasuk like this: leisuchal is boch. You're not able to go ahead and shech es pesach ba'achad. Not and cut off before the word shorecha one of your gates, and learn it as you're not able to shech the pesach b'tumah be'echad as a result of echad. As a result of one person, it won't be machriya everyone to go b'tumah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, I feel the shevet echad tameh. Even if one shevet is tameh, shar kol shvatim tahirim. One complete shevet would be tameh, and everyone else would be tahar. Nanu halol la'maisim la'atzman, balol la'asim la'atzman. Each one would do it separately. My timer, Rabbi Shimon, so a shevet echad ikri kahal. A shevet echad is called a kahal. In other words, we're not going to go ahead and treat the shevet as mi'utim and stick them to Pesach Sheni. They are considered an entity unto itself, because it says by Yaakov Avinu, Goyim ukahal goyim yotzim mecha will come out of you. As of yet, a Binyamin hadn't been born. We see that Binyamin, one shevet is called the kahal. If it's called the kahal, then it's not considered a miyot, and the mela, they can do it b'tumah, they could do it b'tumah, and the rest can do it b'tayra. But they don't have to go to Pesach Sheni. They can do it Pesach Rishon. That's Rabbi Shimon Shita. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yehuda says, "Afilu shevet echad tamei v'shar kol shvatim tahirim." Even if one shevet is tamei, and all the rest of the shvatim are tahar, yasu b'tumah. He disagrees with Rav Shimon. He says that all the ones that are tahar, they can go ahead and do it b'tumah. This is a crazy chiddush, guys. The majority of Klal Yisrael are tahar, and one kahal is tameh, says Rabbi Yehuda, they would be able to do it what? Bituma. They were able to do it bituma. Why? Because we want them to be universal, as we'll see. She'ein korban siba chaluk. Because the korban siba is not. We don't want to separate. We want everyone to be universal. If you discover shevet echad ikri kahal, probably palgo palgo, is called the kahal, and we view it as half and half. She'ein korban siba chaluk. Okay, let's go through this again. There's a few yisoides here, if you will. If the classic case is the majority of Klal Yisrael are tahar, you have a minority of Klal Yisrael that are tamei. They go to Pesach Sheni. That's it. If the majority of Klal Yisrael are tamei, and we learned previously it has to be tumas meis, then all of Klal Yisrael does it b'tumah. Even the ones that are tahar can do it b'tumah according to the idea that ein korban siba chalak, that a korban siba, like korban Pesach, we shouldn't make divisions of people. If you do not hold of that shita, then it's possible for Pesach Rishon to have separate groups, a Tamei Dika group and a Torah Dika group. Rav held, if you don't have any distinct majority, you have 100 of one and 100 of the other, this one will do a Tumah and this one will do a Taira. Says Rabbi Yehuda the following: if I have a shevet, one shevet, and the rest of the cow, I'm going to view that as like Rav does. It's 50-50, right? But I'll view different than Rav. Because I, in addition to holding that each one can do by themselves, I hold they can't be cholok, they can't be separate. So once you have the het betuma, even the ones that are tahar, they can also bring betuma. I feel like I'm doing closed caption over here, like. But I think you get the idea what's going on. Okay, so that's what he said. Itma. Ha Yisrael mechzet tahayin and mechzet tameim. Yisrael, here for Yisrael with tahar, and here for Yisrael with tameim. Amarav, mitamoyin echamehem b'sheretz. Go ahead and let's go ahead and create a majority of tumah. In order to facilitate, guys, we want everyone to bring it together rather than separate groups of taharim groups and tameim groups. Let's create the majority of tameim when they all can bring it to tumah. How do we do that? We go ahead and we add on to the tameim groups by being mitama saman tumah sheretz. Why is that necessary to create a more majority of tumah? Why don't you just have a tamei group and a tahor group? The Amarav halalu oisin la'atzman, when it was mechza mechza, when it was half and half, Rav said these ones do by themselves, halalu oisin la'atzman, and these do by themselves. So why was it necessary? In other words, if the whole reason, guys, you're being mitama to create a majority of tumah to bring a Pesach Sheni, you could accomplish that by just leaving the status quo. Since they're both mechza, they're both tamei, just go ahead. One's tamei, one's tahar. Let this group go with this group, and this group go with this group, right? So why do we have to go ahead and be mitama the person? So Amri, and for the Gemara, the tameim are oidif than the taharim one, right? They're one more. The tameim are oidfim on tameim one more. Now the Rashi says, tameim oidfim al taharim echad lechazi taharim berishain. So the taharim would not be seen berishain. Right, because one person can't put you over the top, right? That one person that you have over here, right? So the taharim are a miyat. So here you have the tameim are more than the taharim by one. So what do we want to do? So l'chayra the tameim are oifim. So therefore, each one can't bring by themselves. Each one can't bring by themselves. If there's more tameim than taharim, havilu tameim, you have a roiv of tameim. So navdu kula b'tumah. Why are we adding an other tamei dika person? It's not speaking where they would go to Pesach Sheni. It's speaking where it all means Pesach Rishon. Halalu atzmo, halalu atzmo. It says the Gemara, no, it can't be halalu atzmo because it's speaking where you have a majority of Tameim. Fred the Gemara, if you have a majority of Tameim, let them all do it b'tuma. And for the Gemara, Savalok Rebel, there's a Masya Damar, Eina Yachid Machriyas at Sibul Tuma. One can't go ahead and like the top line of the Gemara, one can't do the job. So what are we going to do? We're going to make it two. Two would go ahead and force the majority in the majority, and therefore everyone will bring it b'tuma. Let the tahor again. If you only have one it can be machriya. So why are you eating another one? Let each one go ahead and do themselves. A guy for just one more time. We'll get lost in the cheshbon. You said it din that if they're here 50-50, go ahead, add one tameim, and then they're going to bring betuma. Fred the Gemara, why do you have to have 50-50? They can just go ahead and bring this group and this group. Says the Gemara, it's speaking where there's one more than the other. There's one more Tamitika person. So Fred the Gemara, if there's one more Tamitika person, why do you have another Tameh? You have a majority of Tameh. Everyone should bring it betuma. And for the Gemara, it's going according to the opinion that one doesn't go ahead and push it over the top. By adding another l'chayra, you're pushing it over the top. Fred the Gemara, if you have one person that's not machriya, so hajar kushel it's not considered a roiv. Let the Tomei do the Tomei and let the Tar do the Tar. What are you gaining by adding this one more? That's what the Gemara's problem is. Elahachi kamar. Here's what the Gemara is saying. Ikatana the sabala katana kama. If there's a Tana who holds like the Tana Kama that says that palgu of the kula betuma, that half and half do not do betuma. Half and half do not bring it betuma. The Sabalik of Yehuda, the Amar, Ein Korban Siba Chaluk, and holds that one doesn't go ahead, and one we want them to be universal, that everyone should bring it betuma. So Matayim Mechem Hem Sheretz. In other words, Rav said his din that each one brings it separately. But if you hold like the Tanakama who disagrees and says that if you have half and half, they don't bring it each one by themselves. Add one person. By adding one person, what are you accomplishing? They're all going to bring a betuma. Now, why would you want them all to bring a betuma? Because in carbon siba chaluk, carbon siba cannot be separate. We want everyone to be universal. Okay, so they were matame the person with the sheretz. Ula Amar, Ula says, in the case where you have half and half exactly, don't go ahead and add tuma. Go ahead and subtract tahira. In other words, there's two ways to create a majority, guys. Everything's 50. You can make one 51, or you can make the other one 49. So we initially said, make 51. Go ahead and make tumah. By adding one more, make them tameh. Says the Gemara, Ul has a different suggestion. Don't add one more. Subtract from the tahirim, and memela the tameh will be the majority. By subtracting the tahirim, you can have a majority of tameim as a result of less tahirim. We're going to send one of them to a distance away, and we know he won't be chayiv to be oil regel, and he won't have to bring his carbon Pesach until Pesach Sheni. You now have a majority of Tameim. The whole Kal Yisrael will now bring it betuma. They ain't carbon siba cholok. There won't be a distinction between them. That's a very good answer. Why did he not like the idea of being Matama B'Sheretz? Why did Ula hold to subtract rather than to add? Says the Gemara, Kesava, Ula is of the opinion that Shoichetim V'Zoikin al Tamei Sheretz. If you're Matame a person to Mesheretz, guys, let's go through the protocol. It's Yud Dalid. It's Yud Dalid, and you wake up in the morning, and lo and behold, you have a mouse in your bed, and you touch the mouse. You're now Tamei to Mesheretz. You got a problem. You can't bring the carbon Pesach, the Tumah. But 1 second. I have a great Eitzah. I'll send a Shliach. I'll go to the mikvah. I will be at full yom. And in the evening, when I have to eat the carbon Pesach, right, then everything will be great. This is all predicated upon that you hold that you can able to send the Korban Pesach if you'll be tahor in the evening. Ula says you could. In other words, if I was Tamei Tamei Sheretz, it wouldn't be a majority. You wouldn't have accomplished anything because, in fact, they could have shechted it b'taira because in the evening I'm going to eat it b'taira. Therefore, Ula had to come up with another eitzah to create the majority of Tumah. That eitzah was to subtract from the Tahorim by sending them away to Derek Rechek.
But that's only if you're going to go to the mikveh. So don't go to the mikveh, you remain tamei.
Again, you have a mitzvah to bring the korban if you can, right? So, you have an opportunity to bring the korban Pesach. What are you talking about?
But you can bring it betuma. You're not bringing it.
I can't bring it betuma. I don't have a majority anymore. No, there's two things over here. There is, when you bring it betuma, means you're able to shecht it when you're tamei. That's not what it means. It means I can't bring it because I'm tamei. I can send the messenger to bring it for me, and I can eat it in the evening. But I'm not bringing it betuma. It's like futures, Dov. It's futures. I'm able to send it now on the smack that I could eat it in the evening because the whole Korban Pesach is more for the purpose of eating. But it's not creating a scenario of all of Klal Yisrael now can bring it betuma because I don't have a majority of Tameim.
I thought that's why you're taking hold of the sheret. So you're going to make yourself into the majority.
Okay, so problem is since you'd shech for during the daytime, it wouldn't be considered shechting betuma. It would be considered shechting for a fine person. Why? Because I could eat it in the evening. It's got to be a scenario where I won't be able to eat it in the evening. So therefore, the Gemara suggests the tumas mace. Tumas mace will guarantee that what. So for now, that's the next step, logically. Why subtract by sending him away? I have another eitzah. Go ahead, be tamenu b'meis. Go ahead and be metamen tumas meis, and that'll go ahead and accomplish the same thing that I want to accomplish in the first place, right? By adding tumah rather than subtracting. Says the Gemara, matcheu atamichi gasai. If you do that, he won't be able to bring his good. He won't be able to bring his Pesach. He also won't be able to bring his chagiga on Tesvav, which is a mitzvah, it's a chayiv. He won't be able to do that. Why? Right? Why? Because he's tamei tumas meis. When you go ahead and be matama him, right? You also be matama the Pesach. So in other words, if I'm matama him now with the mace, guys, this is Geshmak Teretz. Watch. Why am I not going ahead and be matama him for the Korban Pesach? Is because I'm worried about the Chagiga, right? What happened if he was Tamei and majority of Klal Yisrael were Tamei? You'd bring the Korban Pesach with Tumah. So afraid the Gemara, good, you're not being Tamei, but right now you have a Pesach, it's more important. Says the Gemara, so Hashtanami Matcheu mi Pischoi, by not going ahead and being Matamim to his mace, by opting to send him away rather than Matamim to his mace, you're going ahead and pushing him out from the Pesach. Because if you want him to his mace, then the majority of Klal Yisrael will be Tamei, Roiv the Tzibur Tamei, everyone brings the Tumah. And forget about the Chagiga. You're going to bring the Korban Pesach in this man. Says the Gemara, Efshad David B'Sheni. It's still better. Don't be Mitama to his mace. I'll miss the Pesach. I'll bring it Pesach Sheni. If the Miyot is Tamei, you go to Pesach Sheni. So therefore, I'll go to Pesach Sheni. And I won't go ahead and miss my Chagiga. So therefore, says Gemara, B'meis Nami, Efshad David B'Shvi. Why do you think you're going to go ahead and lose your chance for the Chagiga? We know there's a din of Tashlumin, guys, right? You have all 7 days. So on the 7th day, Davli Shmini Shaloi, it's the 8th day of his Tumah, and you already passed by 7 days, and therefore you should be able to go ahead and be Matama. Says Mer Kasava Ula, again, you guys, you mean Matama on your Dalit, right? 8 days later is the last day of Pesach. So you're able to go ahead. If your whole reason you're not going in Matama to Mismace is because you're worried about the Tumah of Chagiga, your Tesvav. Chagiga Tesvav, you're possible to go ahead and accomplish. Be Matama and Yudalit. 7 days later is the 8th day from his Tumah. You Geshmak, because it's still Pesach. Pesach, you have a Tashlumin for your Chagiga. So go ahead, and everyone will be able to bring a betuma instead of sending him into who knows where. Says Gemara, Kasava Ula Kula Tashluma Derishaninu. Okay, there's a machlokes in the Gemara Chagiga. Look at me, please. There's a machlokes in the Gemara Chagiga. When you say you can bring the Chagiga for 7 days, is pshat that I have a chiyuv of 1 day, and each day I have an ability to make up that chiyuv, or pshat is each day creates a new chiyuv. So if you learn each day creates a new chiyuv, very good. On day 7, I got a new chiyuv. 8th day, bring it. But if you hold day 7 is a tashlumin for day 1 you had no chiyuv, right? So therefore, since Ula holds that, he doesn't have the option of being coming mace because you're going to miss your korban chagiga. Even though it's 8 days later and it fits in the calendar, you can't bring your tashlumin because he holds that the 7th day of Pesach, when you bring it, it's tashlumin on the first day, and the first day you were tamei, there was no chiyuv. So therefore, he opts to go ahead and send the person derech rechaika to subtract from the equality to create a majority of tamein by subtracting that one person. And as the Gemara fears us, the chazi, the rishoin, chazi bekula, someone who was able to go ahead and bring it on the first day, the karma chagiga, then he's chazi lekula, seen throughout each 7th day afterwards. And anytime it's not chazi berishoin, chazi bekula, it's not seen on every other day. So very geshmak. So we have 2 days according to Rav. Go ahead and be tamid to Mesheretz. According to Ula, go ahead and according to Ula, go ahead and send the person away. Okay, guys, geshmak Gemara, right? Nice lumbus, nice cheshbon. Now, this machlok, so Ula says go send someone away, and Rav says go to Mesheretz. Says the Gemara, Amalu Rav Nachman, Zilu v'imilei Lula, go tell Lula, Man Sayas, who's going to listen? The Aka Siche Umishkane, he's going to pick up his 10 pegs and his tent, his house, and he's going to run away in order to go ahead and be Pesach Sheni. Who's going to do that? So obviously it's not a very practical Eitzah. Makes more sense to be Talmud to Mesheretz. Itmar. Hayeru Bezavin. Roiv Kal Yisrael Bezavin. Now, if Roiv Zavim do not go ahead and create a scenario of Tumah, it's that everyone can bring with Tumah. It's only Roiv Tamei Mace. We learned that. Only Roiv Tamei Mace will create what? Will create Pesach Sheni. Only Roiv. Nothing else. Roiv Zavim, that's not a Roiv that's going to go ahead. Now, as a matter of fact, if Roiv Zavim, they don't go to Pesach Sheni either, as we'll see. Umiyutun Tamei Mace. So you have a Roiv that has Zavim and a minority of Tamei Mace. What's the din? Amarav, Oisa Tamei Mason, those Tamei Mason, Eina Oisa, Loi B'Rishon v'Loi B'Sheni. They can't bring Pesach Rishon and they can't bring Pesach Sheni. Rishon Le'avdi, why can't they do Pesach Rishon? Because they have a miuta, because they're a miut. Umiyat Le'avdi B'Rishon. And you never have a minority that brings Pesach Rishon. B'Sheni Nami Le'avdi, and the Sheni also they don't do, because it's called Heicha the Avdi Tziba B'Rishon, when the Tziba brings Tumah, brings the Rishon of the Yachid B'Sheni. Called Heichad Le'avdi Tziba B'Rishon, when the Tziba doesn't bring Rishon, Le'avid Yachid B'Sheni. Again, going back to our klolim of Korban Pesach. Good? Roiv Tamei Mace. Then all the Kal Yisrael brings the Petuma. All the Kal Yisrael brings the Petuma. Roiv Tamei Mace. Roiv Tahar, Umiyot Tamei. Now the Miyot Tamei can be any type of Tumah. We learned that also. If Miyot Tamei Mace, there's Zavim and Sarayim, they're going to go to Pesach Sheni. Okay? Listen what you have over here. You have Roiv that are Tamei Tumas Zav. They don't create a scenario of Tumah in Klal Yisrael. They're not Tamei Mace. Good? You have a Miyot that are Tamei Mace, right? A Miyot that are Tamei Mace. No one's going to bring Pesach Rishon now. The Zavim are not being Pesach Rishon because they're Tamei. The Miyot's not going to bring Tamei Mace. Tamei Mace is not going to bring because they're not a majority. They're a minority. So no one bought Pesach Rishon. Now let's look at Pesach Sheni. So let's say the people who, the minority can't bring Pesach Sheni because there was no Roiv by Pesach Rishon. The only time the minority brings by Pesach Sheni is when there was a Roiv by Pesach Rishon. We had no road by Pesach Rishon. And maybe they don't bring it all. Amlu Shmuel disagrees. Shel Shmuel, Zil Amrulei Abba, go tell Rav, who's known as Abba. Vayasu b'nei Yisrael ha'pasach b'mayad. Mayav Abdislay. What's he going to do with Pasuk that says b'nei Yisrael bring the carbon Pesach b'mayadai in the set time? Mashma, someone's got to bring it. According to you, no one's bringing anything. Pesach Rishon is out. It says mayadai. What's going on over here? No one's bringing Pesach Rishon. No one's bringing Pesach Sheni. You just Rav did away with Pesach Shina, and it says b'mayadai, bring it in its right time. So Amalahu, Rav answers the Talmud of Shmuel came to him. Zil Omule, go tell Shmuel, ki havi kula zovim mayavnislei. What would he do if all the Klal Yisrael was zovim? What would he do if all the Klal Yisrael was zovim? Would you bring Pesach Rishon? No. Elakivid loy efsha. Since it's not possible in the kind of pasuk, it's not possible. Hachanami, where it's just roiv and a mir of tamei mesim, nami loy efsha. It's also not possible. Good. Itmar. Hayeruba tamei mesim. So that sets us up for the scenario of bringing a betuma. Again, just go through like the same format. Itmar Hayeruba tamei mesim. Most of the Klal Yisrael tamei tumas meis. Umiyuta zavin. Now the mir is zavin. So usually, if roiva tamei meis, everyone would bring. But here you have a mir that can't bring, right? Now the question is, what's the din of the Zavim being Pesach Sheni or not? That's the Shiloh. What again? If they can't bring Pesach Rishon, even though it's Hutra B'tzibur, it's only for Tamei Meis, not for Zavim. Zavim can't bring Pesach Rishon. Can they bring Pesach Sheni or not? That's the Shiloh again. It's going to be Machlekes. Rav Huna Amar, Ein Tashlum LePesach Haba B'Tumah. If a Pesach's brought B'Tumah, there is no Tashlumim. Right? Since it's brought b'tumah, right? It's brought b'tumah, and then they can't bring the second one, period. That's what he says. Rav Bar Rava Amar, yesh tashlum lePesach haba b'tumah. There is a tashlum that a Pesach's brought b'tumah. So since the tumah was, they were able to bring b'tumah, you could bring the Tmeim, could bring Pesach Sheni. Now, guys, look at me. Look at me. Let's say the following scenario. The Pesach was brought b'tahira. There was Zavim. What would we do to Zavim in that scenario? We put them to Pesach Sheni. Again, don't get caught up in the din of Tumah pushing Pesach Rishon versus those who are Tamei to Pesach Sheni. Tamei to Pesach Sheni is everybody. Pesach Rishon is only doicha tumas meis. So now there is no tumah tumas meis. The majority of Klal Yisrael are tahar. Now you're going to go ahead and bring it b'tayra. So all people who are derech b'chayka or any other type of zav, mitzayra, yaledes, they're going to Pesach Sheni. Good. Says Rav Huna now, change the first scenario. Change the Pesach Rishon to tumah. That it wasn't brought b'tayra, it was brought b'tumah. Says Rav Huna, then the Zavim will not bring to Pesach Sheni. Says Rav Ada, no difference. They will bring to Pesach Sheni. What's the Sfaras HaMachloikis the Gemara is going to suggest? The following. Do you view Tumah as Hutcha B'tzibur? Or do you view Tumah as Hutra B'tzibur? Do you view Tumah as there's a complete waiver? There is no Tumah. Nothing to talk about. Or do we say no? There's Tamei. Whatever the Torah permitted, it permitted, but the Tumah still remains. So very geschmack. Light Rav Adabarava, he views when you're Tamei, majority of Tamei, Tumas Meis, he says Tumah is Hutra B'tzibur. So we'll view the carbon Rishon as if it was bought by Tahorim. Since Tumah is Hutra B'Rishon, all the Tumah is Muta. So let's view the Tameim as Tahorim. What's the din of Pesach Rishon? They're Tahar. Then all the Miut, all the Tameim, Pesach Sheni, including the Zavim. That's Rav Ada's Svara. Tumah is Hutra B'Tzibur. The Mesim are Tahar. And just as Pesach Rishon is bought B'Taira, the Mi'utim, even the Zavim go to Pesach Sheni, who are din when it's brought B'tumah, because now they're all Tahar. Rav Huna, on the other hand, says, no, Tuma is hodcha b'tzibur. I really don't want to let you go ahead and bring this B'tuma, but I have no choice. I have no choice. I learned out from Pesach, Talmud from Pesach, that if it's Kavua Zman, it's brought B'tuma. B'kaishi, it's brought B'tuma. B'kaishi. But the Tumah still remains. If the Tumah still remains, any Pesach Rishon that's brought B'tuma, then the Miyot with that tummy do not go to Pesach Sheni. Thus, Rav Huna says, Pesach that's brought B'tuma, the Zavim do not go to Pesach Sheni. Let us, yes? Name, let us suggest, this is as far as the machlokes. The man, the Amar, Rav Huna says, ain't tashlum lePesach above B'tuma. There's no tashlum with the Pesach that's above B'tuma. Kesavar is of the opinion, Tuma dechuya hi b'tzibur. Tuma is dechuya, it's pushed off, meaning the Tuma is there. Whatever I push off, but the Tuma is still there. Since the Tuma is still there, it's considered a Pesach of a Tuma, and therefore the Mi'utim that are Tami do not go to Pesach Sheni. Right? The Uman the Amar Yesh Tashlum le Pesach of a Tuma, Rabbi Barava, who says that Pesach Sheni, though they could bring, he says Kusava Tuma is Hutra B'tzibur. Therefore, these Tami people who brought Pesach Rishon, as if they're completely tar. If they're completely tar, it's like a normal scenario. A year when the Pesach Rishon is brought B'Taira, then the Pesach Sheni is brought B'Tuma. Says Amiloi. That's not the Masoras HaMachlokes. The Kuliyama Tuma Dechuya B'Tzibur. I can say Tuma is Dechuya B'Tzibur. U'B'Ha Peligin. Here's the Machlokes. Taira Mitchaya Tuma Loi Mitchaya. Pesach that's brought B'Taira, Doich is Tumeim to make Pesach Sheni. But something that's brought B'Tuma does not. U'Masav Afilu Tuma Nami Mitchaya. In other words, it can be just simply what can push you to Pesach Sheni. Does it have to be a Torah Dikkat of Pesach, or even a Tamei Dikkat of Pesach? But nothing to do with Tumah Chutroy or viewing this Tahar. A Pesach that's what the Tumah, like Rav Huna, cannot push you Pesach Sheni. A Pela Radam Abba, it could put you Pesach Sheni. Itmar. Hayu Shlishtin Zavim. A third of Klal Yisrael is Zavim. Ushlissisan Tahirim. A third of it Tahirim. Ushlissisan, and the final third is Tamei Mason. So three groups. A third Zavim, a third Tahirim, and a third who are Tamei Mason. Amar Rav Mani bar Patish, Oisan Tamei Mason, right? Those that are Tamei Mason, Barishalei Avde. They can't bring the Pesach Rishon. They're not able to bring the Pesach Rishon. Right? Why? Higdilu Zavim al Tahirim. The Zavim will go ahead and combine the Mitzdarif with the Tahirim. You won't have a majority of Tameim. In other words, guys, Zavim do not go to Pesach Rishon. Who's the only Tumah that goes to Pesach Rishon? Tamei Mace. So vis-a-vis the din of majority, you don't have a majority. I'll consider in this halacha the Zavim like Tahirim. Vis-a-vis the halacha of pushing the majority of Tamei Mesim over, I can't do that because I have a majority that are not Tamei Tamis Mace, the Tahirim and the Zavim. So I'll view as Rav Tahirim. So therefore, Pliavdi B'Tumah. So I have a Tamei Mesim Miyuta, the Tamei Mesim now on Miyut. Me loyavde b'rishon, and me it doesn't do b'rishon. B'sheni loyavde. Now, why can't they Tamei Mason bring the current rishon on the sheni? It's starfu zavim and Tamei Mason the other way around. The zavim will go ahead and combine with Tamei Mason loyavde b'rishon that they couldn't do it b'rishon because why? You don't have majority. Havle ruba. Now there you have Roy Yisrael, right? The Zavim on Pesach Sheni are Tahar because they didn't do Pesach Rishon. So Havile Ruba, it's a majority. For Ruba Le Mitchla Pesach Sheni. One more time, outside. Three groups, right? Three groups. So what would I want to do? Let me create a scenario of Tumah. Let me create a scenario of Tumah. I'll combine the Zavim with the Tamei Mesim. Now they'll be able to bring, everyone will be able to bring Pesach Rishon. So there's no way you could do that because since the Zavim are not seen for Pesach Rishon, right? The majority then are not seen for Pesach Rishon. Therefore, the Tamei Mace cannot bring Pesach Rishon. Okay, so now let's go to Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, what are you going to say? The Tar, the Zavim are Tar, and the Tamei Mace are Tar, right? Now you're going to have no Roiv can go to Pesach Sheni. Only a Miyat can go to Pesach Sheni, and therefore the Tamei Mace is messed up from Pesach Rishon and messed up from Pesach Sheni. The Tahirim are good. The Tahirim are good. The Tamei Mesim are finished. Says the Mishnah, HaPesach shenizrach damoi, v'yakach noidashu tamei. Pesach, that you sprinkle the blood, and afterwards it became known that he was tamei. It known after the Zrika that the dam was tamei or the Pesach was tamei. Again, hatzitz miratze. Guys, the tzitz is miratze on tumas of the animal, or the blood, the fat, the basar. The tzitz is not miratze on the person. If the person's tamei, it doesn't work, as we're going to see right now. Nitma haguf, it becomes known afterwards that the person was tamei. Eina tzitz miratze. The tzitz will not make it acceptable to carbon, and he'll have to go to Pesach Sheni. If they sh'amru a nazir, we say a nazir also. We say a nazir. If the nazir became tamei before he brought his karbanis, it overrides his naziris, and he has to start counting another 30 days. For oysa Pesach, or a person who brings a carbon Pesach, hatzitz miratza al tumas hadam. The tzitz will be miratza on dam if that's tamei. The einat tzitz miratza al tumas haguf, but it won't be miratza on tumas haguf. So we're bringing two scenarios where tumah comes into play. Pesach, whether I'm going to be doichel Pesach Sheni because my first carbon's not good, or a nazir who is tamei who brings karbanos, we won't accept his karbanos because he was tamei at the time. So if it's a psul in the carbon, the tzitz will be miratza to make it acceptable. If it's a psul in the guf of the person, the tzitz is not miratza. Then it's miratza tumas haguf. Nitma, the nazir or the oisa Pesach tumas tahaim. Now this is a tumas suffix. Tumas tahaim is a suffix. Let's see Rashi to explain Tumas Tahaim. Let's see Rashi to explain Tumas Tahaim. Says Rashi. Nitma gufoi b'tumas hatahaim. B'tumas suffix. It's a tumah of suffix in the Mefarish b'Gemara. Harizem meratza. The halacha l'maish misinahi. The chutra tumas hatahaim lehen. So despite the fact that we say that the tzitz is only meratza on the animal, be it its dam, its baso, or its imurim, there is a hechet timtza, there's a scenario where the tzitz will be meratza on the individual, that if it becomes known that he was in a situation, tumas hatahoim, meaning there might have been tumah tahom subterraneously underneath him or not, but we don't know. So in that case, if he did speak, we knew beforehand, if he did, well, we'll see in the Gemara, but that tzitz, Allah Sinai, can be miratze, can make acceptable the person's carbon, despite the fact that he himself is tamei. It doesn't make any sense. By regular tumah, it doesn't work. By tumas at the home, it does work, but it doesn't have to make any sense because it's a halacha l'moshe misinai that's been handed out from Sinai that is the rule. Good. Okay. Says the Gemara. Taima, the reason that tzitz is miratze, the nizrak v'achkach noida. He sprinkled the blood, and then he found it afterwards that the blood or the basa was, or the imurim were tamei. Aval noida v'achkach nizrak. If he knew about it and he still did the zrika, right? Then loy meratza. The tzitz won't be meratza. So the Gemara, the first Amoira in the Gemara is of the opinion that in order for the tzitz meratza, it can't be b'mezid. You can't sprinkle it b'mezid, even if it's on the subject, the material that it usually works for, such as basra, imurim, and dam. If you do it b'mezid, it's not going to work. Urimin alesu estira alma hatzitz meratza. What is the tzitz meratza on? Ala dam, ala basra, ala chelev, shenitma. Bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, bein b'onis, bein b'ratzin, bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur. So the havamina is that if you do zurika b'mezid, because it says bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, the havamina it's going on the zurika. That even if I do the zurika b'mezid, it's going to work, right? Says the Gemara in Ravina to answer this problem. To moslei bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid. It's not speaking about the zrika. It's speaking about the actual tumah. If the tumah of the dam was b'mezid, but the zrika was b'shogeg, it would work. Not to say the zrika was b'mezid. Zrika b'mezid is not going to work. But if the contraction of tumah was through a mezid, and the dam or the basar or the imurim became tumah as a result of a mezid, nonetheless, if the zrika is performed b'shogeg, it'll work. And the Tumas of Imishayim B'mezid Hurtzu. It's because of a mezid Hurtzu. It's because of a B'shoigeg Hurtzu B'mezid Lei Hurtzu. If it's because of B'shoigeg Hurtzu B'mezid Lei Hurtzu. So read like this. I'm Ravina Tomasa, Bein B'Shoigeg, Bein B'Meisid Hortza. It's because of B'Shoigeg Hortza. B'Meisid Loy Hortza. If the Zrika done with B'Shoigeg, it's going to work. If it's done B'Meisid, it won't work. And when was Meisid? When does it work? That's speaking about when what? When the Tuma was B'Meisid. Rav Shila disagrees. Rav Shila says we're more machma in the contraction of Tuma than we are in the actual Zrika. Rav Shila Amar, it's because Bein B'Shoigeg, Bein B'Meisid, the Zrika that was performed, whether Shoigeg or Meisid, Hurtzu, it works. Tumasa B'Shoigeg, Hurtzu, B'Meisid Le Hurtzu. So he learns that Meisid and Shoigeg are going on the Kabbalah's Tuma. But the Zrika could even be B'Meisid. The Zrika could even be B'Meisid. Elahodik Tani Bein B'Shoigeg, Bein B'Meisid, Rafi Kamar. Nitma B'Shogeg, if the animal contracted Tuma B'Shogeg, or the blood, whatever, V'Zarku, and you went ahead and sprinkled the blood. Bein B'Shogeg, and the key over here is Bein B'Meisid. Rav Shila says even B'Meisid, Hortza. The carbon will be accepted. I v'hadik tani dam shenizrak v'achach noidat. And our Mishnah says only after the Zrika he found out, not before. According to Rav Shila, even before, if he did it b'mezid, it would work. Right? Time of the nizrak v'achach noidat. I will noidat v'achach nizrak loi. No, who adin nafilu noidat v'achach nizrak. The same halacha would apply that if he knew about it and he sprinkled it, he did it b'mezid. V'hadik tani nizrak v'achach noidat. So why'd you learn dafka if you found that afterwards? Mishum the boy lemisne seifo, because we have to learn this seifo of the Mishnah. Nitma haguf einat sitz maratza. If the guf, even if the guf became tamid, it sits as not maratza. That filu nizrak v'achach noida, right? Even if he found that only afterwards, right? Loy tani reisha nami nizrak v'achach noida. So we're learning the case of the reisha to be consistent with the case in the seifa. In the seifa, the chiddush is even if you found that afterwards in tumas haguf, it doesn't help. So too in the reisha. When it's said, even if you found that afterwards, it doesn't help, means ataka does help. It would help if you did this week. The whole reason we learned the Lashon is Agav the Sefer. So you have machlokes between Ravina and Shila. Let's go through it again. We know that tzitzis maratza on dam, the tzitzis maratza on emurim and basa. When is that? Says Ravina, that the zrika was done b'shogeg. But if it contracted tumah afil b'mezid, it's good. Says Rav Shila, no. If it contracted to b'mezid, forget about it. Even a zrika b'mezid won't help. Even a zrika b'mezid won't help. If it contracts tuma b'mezid, forget about it. If it doesn't contract tuma b'mezid, then afilu a zrika b'mezid would help, because the ikka of the bein b'shoigeg bein b'mezid is going on the zrika, not on the Kabbalah's Tuma. Like Ravina, the bein b'shoigeg bein b'mezid is going on the zrika, not on the Kabbalah's Tuma. Okay, I have to go to Sheva Brachas, so we'll have to stop over here.